We'll start off with the leadership keynote, and I request all of you to remain seated as we do a little bit of the setup here. This leadership keynote is on cyber and the changing face of modern warfare. What an interesting, absolutely interesting leadership keynote that we're going to have. And the keynote speaker is Mr. Diwakar Dayal. He is the MD of Sentinel-1. And I will request all our dignitaries who are standing outside, our delegates who are outside, to kindly come in. This is going to be an interesting session for all of you, and I promise that if you're not going to be in here, then you're going to miss a lot. So before I call Mr. Diwakar Dayal onto the dais to take over the microphone, I will do a bit of introductions for him. Mr. Diwakar Dayal is the Managing Director and Country Manager, Sentinel-1 India and SAARC. Mr. Dayal is a cybersecurity industry veteran with 25 years of experience in India and Asia-Pacific region. He has led high-growth security products, platforms, practices, services, and solutions, businesses in leadership positions with global companies. Mr. Diwakar is the Managing Director and Country Manager for Sentinel-1's business across India and the SAARC. And put your hands together for Mr. Diwakar Dayal as I invite him onto the stage to give you this very interesting note on leadership. So, here he is. Can we hear a round of applause, please?
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Looks like it's been a very long day, and most of them have retired outside, either at the bar, if it's already open, or maybe tea. Hey, so I'll keep this really short and crisp to make it interesting for you. I know there have been a lot of speakers ahead of me. I wish I had a very fascinating topic to talk to you about. All, great stuff happening. Unfortunately, it's not. Really, what we're seeing today out there is a very dark, gloomy outlook, right? And some of you are already following the war in a different continent. There are repercussions to that happening in this country as well. And those repercussions are not just around oil, energy, and other crises, but more of crisis coming from the whole cyber domain. And clearly, if you're somebody who's looking at the news day in and day out, one thing is for sure. It doesn't seem like we are able to win the war against attackers, adversaries. Why? Company after company, organizations with all the might in terms of skill sets, in sense of tools, people are today failing to defend themselves against attacks of different kinds. And these are examples that I'm showing you. There are plenty of them. The idea really is not to kind of educate you here about how these attacks are coming in, but about the inevitability of these attacks. Clearly, there is something that is going wrong. Otherwise, the top banks of the country, the top ITES organizations, the largest government functionaries, the largest hospital in our capital city has been devastated for the last 1 week with inability to function. They have patients who show up at the hospital because there's no system to take an appointment. And all that is happening because today, most organizations are failing against adversaries and attackers. And why is that happening? Clearly, there is this underestimation of this domain. Cybersecurity by itself is way too big, with a lot of challenges across different areas within cybersecurity. And for the last 2-3 decades, we've been trying to solve the problem in the wrong way. And why do I say that? I used to work in a cybersecurity domain almost 23, 24 years back when it didn't exist in its true name. And a lot of IT leaders back in 2000 used to look at me in a very condescending manner or look at security folks simply because it was an annoyance, right? Compliance, stopping business. But things were easier then. Back in the 2000s, you had a bunch of smart kids who got angry and wrote some simple scripts which had very fancy names. I use the word jargon because the problem has not changed. The nature of the problems have changed. We had a simple problem called viruses. We had a very simple solution. We threw a file which kind of understood how bad files looked and looked for them. And that was called the signature-based era. And then we went to this entire cloud adoption 10 years back. Hackers got smarter. They started cheating the signatures, right? They started introducing new jargons, APTs, ransomwares, malwares, very cool words, but basically doing the same thing, fooling applications, operating systems, and whatnot. And then a lot of technologies evolved. It came from taking the power of the cloud to be able to solve the problem. Where we are going today really is this challenge that those technologies today are not able to stop the kind of attacks that have come in. Clearly, in the last couple of years, accelerated by this digital transformation that's happened with COVID and the pandemic, the hackers or the adversaries are on steroids in terms of taking down companies. And why are they doing that? Because it's easy, and the technologies that is supposed to defend against them is not available today. Unfortunately, there are a host of companies, large ones, who make very good switches, routers, operating systems, sometimes firewalls, and then they come together like this bunch of kids collecting stones in the playground, coming up with this everything that we can solve for you. This whole hoax of putting together one security stack from end to end, that story has failed many times over the last 2-3 decades. And that's how we are also digging the grave for a lot of organizations in having a false sense of cybersecurity. Because of which they fall for these plots and then again come back to, hey, why am I getting attacked again? Clearly, if you look at the budgets that are going inside, it's over 250 billion across the world. Even in India, it's a behemoth number. Most companies are spending more money today in cybersecurity than they did 5 or 10 years back. I hope you agree. But unfortunately, they are less secure today than 5 or 10 years back. So clearly, there is this gap that's evolved, and this gap is coming in from the fact that A, the attackers are taking just milliseconds to come in, and B, the technologies that we are using today to defend against the attackers are pretty much useless. Of course, when we look at the things around, the various analyst report, they publish them with a view that, hey, these technologies have a great, footprint. But unfortunately, these footprints are not helping stop these attacks coming in. So what's the way forward? We believe it's very simple. We got to flip the balance of power from human-driven approach, which is what we've been trying to do for the last couple of years, to a machine-driven approach. And we believe that is the only way you can keep pace with the speed at which you have relentless attacks, the scale at which we have attacks today, and most important, you have a millisecond to get it right. So how accurate can you get it right? And that gives us the whole new birth of this concept that you got to create a defense that is autonomous, a platform that can work on its own. What do I mean by that? When a bad packet comes in, from wherever it does, email, USB tokens, or whatever else the manner, you do not need to look at a past signature, nor do you need to go to the cloud or crowd to check if I've seen this before. That is truly autonomous. And this is more relevant today in India simply because 70 to 80% of us are still working from home, but the bandwidth at home is not the bandwidth at the office. Do you agree? So how do you then expect split-second security when your security software needs to go back to the cloud, wherever it is in the world, and then figure out if this program is doing the right thing? And that's what we mean by autonomous cybersecurity platform. We believe our company, Israeli-born company, our CEO was a hacker back in Israel 10, 15 years back. He worked for various groups within Israel and came up with this wonderful technology, which is completely AI-driven, way ahead of its time, with a few patents that really gives us the power to be able to stop attacks in real time at the scene of the crime, at the laptop, the computer, the server, the container, wherever the workload works, without really having a dependency to go back and check multiple layers. That is the power of the autonomous cybersecurity platform, and this is the era that's starting now, which will help us get some respite from this onslaught of attacks that we're seeing day in and day out. Clearly, this platform is powered by a single data lake called the Singularity XDR. It basically means we don't care about the agents. We don't care about what devices you use. Your cybersecurity is free to really take the power of data and then apply the same efficacy that we've built and detect, protect, and remediate in real time without dependencies of human beings, without dependencies of really a fatigued SOC team, which today is failing. And most importantly, with least false positives and getting it right every time, which is cybersecurity's biggest challenge. The company itself, over 2,000 plus sentinels spread across the world, across all continents in terms of sales, research, tech support, as well as development. And clearly, we have established this security platform as a world leader in being able to stop attacks in real time across different landscapes. If people are familiar with these words, MITRE right in the middle is like the Oscars of the technical world. They rank vendors, not based on how big they are, how much money they make, how beautiful their marketing slides look, but can they stop an attack or not? And every time, the last 3 years, we have passed the test as the #1 company to detect attacks in real time with least dependencies. And of course, there are other analysts who looked at us and say, hey, wow, it's a cool technology, it works great, and it's really positioned well to help customers succeed in how they stop attacks. Over 9,000 plus customers. When we did go for our IPO, it was the biggest cybersecurity IPO of the world. It kind of proved that the message and the product we brought to the market is bang on in terms of solving the right problem. Not like those stones that bunch of kids were stacking up, saying that's my security solution. Because most of those tech vendors today, they have customers across every vertical, and all of their customers have got breached. So there must be something wrong with what they're offering. From an India perspective, I was employee #1 back less than 2 years, back in Feb. We have grown close to 200 plus employees today, and all that has happened because of the way the market has embraced us. We have customers that we're adding on by weeks and by day, and most important of all, we have a development center in Bangalore, which we acquired with a wonderful company called Ativo, which is a leader again in identity and cloud security, and then be able to offer the best of support locally to our customers here in the Indian time zone. We also have something called the S1 Investment Fund that clearly works on identifying leaders in the space in startups who can help or who are driving innovation to help solve this problem. And the reason I call this out again is a lot of times when large companies acquire 10s and 20s startups, eventually the culture of the company walks out of the door and the technology follows behind it. Which is why you see most of these big stack vendors getting outdated, which is why it's very important to keep the startups in the mode that they are. We have the largest customers from a point of view of different verticals, be it the largest airline of India, be it one of the fanciest and the fastest growing airport of India, right? Indian government agencies who use a lot of on-prem solutions, large automobile manufacturers. So across verticals, we have been able to establish SentinelOne's value in terms of A, protecting them every day, every night, B, being able to really make it easy to embrace and migrate to SentinelOne, and C, offer them world-class support. We've also committed to investing in the country in terms of a local data center, local investments in, like I said, in development and whatever else. And that has powered the kind of growth that we've seen in the last less than 2 years. We are known as a rocket ship sales company across the world, in a very light manner, simply because of the growth that we've been able to establish in every region that we function. And I'll just leave you behind with this one little picture. When people buy any cybersecurity solution, what do you think they buy? Are they buying tools? Are they buying platforms? Are they buying licenses? Absolutely right. What you buy when you buy cybersecurity is one night's sleep. And I tell you why. We get approached by a lot of organizations, at least 2 to 3 a week, who get breached. Sometimes as bad as the one in Delhi hospital, sometimes not as bad. They approach us saying, can you help us? Right? Because they're using outdated, current, those fancy technologies that's being sold out there. And what they lack really is this peace of mind. All of us went to school, and I'm not sure how many of you had this thing called Monday morning blues. Do you remember them? I had it when I was in school. Sunday evening and Monday morning is the worst time of the week because I'm suddenly nervous. What homework have I missed when I'm going to school? Most security leaders and IT leaders today have Friday evening blues. As soon as they go out of the office heading to the weekend, they dread an office call saying, guess what? We just got ransomware. This is the peace of mind that we believe we want to provide to our customers here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. May I request Dhruva Mukherjee to kindly come on stage, please, and do the honors of felicitating and presenting a memento to Mr. Diwakar Dayal. So,
Thank you.
here is Mr. Dhruva Mukherjee, CEO of AVP Private Limited, presenting a memento to Mr. Diwakar Dayal, MD of SentinelOne. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.